G'day, I'm Kate Grarock. How are you? Today I'm optimistically packing for a 3-day hike, and I just thought I'd do a little run through on all the stuff I take and stop at different points and talk about alternatives. If you're not a fan of dehydrated milk, what else you could take. Here I've got 2 breakfasts, 3 lunches and 2 dinners, and yep, we've come in at 1.7 kilos, which is I think 588 grams per day. All the food I talk about today I've bought with my own money, and I haven't been sponsored or asked to represent any brands here. So let's just jump into it and we'll go straight to breakfast. I just love mee goreng for brekkie. I make it up as a real big soupy delicious meal. It warms me up, it gives me a bit of carbs. I know it's not the most nutritious thing, but for me it's something I just look forward to every day on the trail. I love a good coffee on the trail, and Laughing Pug has been doing me well. They are drip filter coffees. I'll show you what I mean about that. Rip off the top and you place it over your cup, put it on there, and then you pour the hot water through. It's a drip filter bag and it's really delicious coffee. A few other brands out there, have a look. I'll link to Laughing Pug down below, and they've given me a 10% discount code if you guys want to get involved. I don't get any kickbacks off it, but basically all you do is check out is put Kate10. One other coffee product that I've been getting into is Dog and Gun instant coffee, and it's kind of like the powder that you'd get, kind of like a Nescafe, but it's way better. It's basically an espresso that they've freeze dried or something like that, and super easy if you're into a bit more ease than these drip filters, and then you've got to hike the filters out as well. Then obviously powdered milk saves a heck of a lot of weight. I quite like these little guys. They're just sort of the long life milk you can get from Woolies or something, and so they don't have to be refrigerated. So this is like 15 grams per day, whereas this is about 215 grams per day. So it certainly adds up, but it's all about working out what your priorities are. The other thing I do sometimes if it's just an overnight hike is I'll fill this up with just normal milk, whack it in the freezer before I go, then have it in my pack, and then you can get away with sort of still using that the next morning for nice fresh milk. Also love like a little Barocca or a multivitamin for brekkie, just to get that fluid hydration happening straight away, straight off the mark. Now a few alternatives here I'll bring in. There's good old cereal, porridge, oats. I like to say get my cereal, Nutri-Grain, whatever you want, put the milk powder in there before, so in the morning all you gotta do is tip in a cup of water and give it a shake in the bag and you're good to go. These bags are pretty easy to wash out and reuse. Another alternative that I've been getting into is Radix Nutrition. They do a whole range of pretty darn healthy instant hiking meals where you just sort of rip off the top, whack in some hot water, give it a stir and then eat it. And these ones that I have for brekkies are like mixed berry, and it's sort of like a muesli, but I think they don't use any wheat products. You can choose the calorie intake. So when I first did my order, I got like 800 calorie bunches, and this was just way too much for me for brekkie. So I've dropped down to the 450. I did a hike a while back in the Butterwangs where I tried to eat them for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and it got a little bit too much. The only other thing I'd add is if I'm on a long trail, I might take some sort of multivitamin, just so if I'm hiking for a month, I'm not eating that many fresh fruits and veggies, and I like to just throw a multivitamin in there to make sure I'm getting everything I need. So on this trip, I'm planning on stopping briefly, cooking up a cup of hot water and having these guys for lunch, the Radix. I have tried eating them cold and I don't recommend it. Well, some of them are okay cold, but I tried the wild Atlantic salmon cold and it just wasn't that good. So where they excel is definitely when you put hot water in them. There's so many different flavors, so many different choices in terms of dietary. You can choose the calories, so I'm sort of going for about 600 for a lunch, which is a fair whack. But I think on some of these hikes where I'm moving quite a lot, it's not too bad. I'm going the same for dinner as well. One thing that sets this brand out way apart from many of the others on the market that I've tried is the meat is delicious. It doesn't taste like it's a sponge that they've just shoved some sort of texture into, and it doesn't upset my tummy. A lot of the other brands make me feel pretty weird and off after eating, just not like they're nourishing my body. Bought these with all my own money, love them. With a good lunch, you obviously need some good snacks as well, and this is one of my favorites. These are my little tomato wagon wheels, and I make these with my dehydrator, and I've got a video, I'll link to that above, so you can check that out if you're interested. I've also got my beef jerky, and so this is nicely dehydrated and it will last. I've taken stuff like this out on the Larapinta Trail and it's lasted fine for 14 days. So, but yeah, check out the video that I've done on this. It's really important to cut off the fat because it's the fat that goes rancid. And then I just sort of get a generic scroggin mix and I throw a few of my own, say apricots and things like that in. On some hikes where I'm just going flat out all day, you know, like 10 or 12 hour day hiking, sometimes I'll tend to just snack the entire time instead of stopping and having a big lunch, because actually when I'm working that hard, I don't feel like a big lunch. Okay, let's have a look at some alternatives to that. Sometimes I like to take things like oat slices or little apricot bars. They start to get a bit high on the sugar, but sometimes it's nice, especially if I don't want to stop and have the radix. One thing I love to do if it's just an overnight hike and I'm happy to take a little bit of extra weight is make wraps, and they just come across so beautifully on the trail. So the one thing that I love doing is taking sort of a hot salami or a sort of a, hey, you're interested in that, mate? Is to take like a hot salami, because these things keep pretty well out of the fridge, and for like 2 days you're going to be okay with that. But you might have some dogs following you around. Hello, you're right, mate, it's okay. These guys, you know, any brand's fine, but I just love these soft wraps. I like to take a little bit of mayonnaise in a small container. Once again, not sure how well this lasts, but you know, if it's not too hot, it should last 2 days. I'll basically take a little container like this to put my tomatoes and a beautiful treat of an avocado, also a cucumber. So these things start to add up in weight, but they just taste so good on the trail. And then if you're getting really fancy, marinated feta and semi-sun-dried tomatoes. If you don't like pepperoni, you can get these nice little tuna packets that are sort of foil sealed, so you're not taking a whole tin, so that'll save you a heck of a lot of weight. But in comparison, this lunch to the other lunch, you're going to save a heap of weight if you're sort of going down the snack route or the freeze-dried meal route. The Radix lunch is about 142 grams versus this one, which is about 530 grams for one of these lunches. So, you know, it's a big difference. But once again, it's up to you. Do you love and savor? Is the reason you hike is to have those beautiful meals, or is it just sort of to get the fuel in and keep going? So, you know, different style of food for different hikes, and I enjoy both styles. So we've finished the day hiking, and the first thing I do is grab my protein shake, and I just find it aids recovery so much. The next day I feel so much healthier and fitter and ready to take on the day. So what I've got here is just a protein shake, and I've put in powdered milk with it. So once I get in, I'll just sort of tip about half of this into my bottle, fill it up with water, give it a good shake, and really enjoy that nice little drink. The other thing I'll do at the end of the day is sort of throw in something like this. Is a Gatorade type product, and these just help make sure you've got all your rehydration happening nicely. Another thing I like to do, especially if it's cold, is perhaps have a little soup. And these are little miso packs that I just get from Woolies or Coles, and they're really delicious. They come in a little box of 2. Cool, that's snacks. Rightio, now it's dinner time, probably the best meal of the day. You're tired and you're just, you know, looking out hopefully over that beautiful vista. I'm a huge fan of dehydrating my own food. And these are my dehydrated meals that I've vacuum packed. Pretty delicious. So this is a spaghetti bolognese that I made up. Once again, I'll add the link to how I made that. And this is a dal I made. So that's what I'd have, and that saves so much weight. Basically what I love to do is, this is Deb mashed potato. And so I'll just have about half a cup for each meal for one person, and you just put hot water on that and boom, it's instant mashed potato. So this is about 110 to 130 grams per dinner, so that's pretty amazing. We'll jump to the Radix. Righto, my good old Radix again. They're a New Zealand brand. You can order them different calories, so 600 for me I find is a pretty good one for dinner, and I can eat a fair bit. I was recently in Tasmania and I thought, boom, this is the opportunity to have a crack at some of these Strive foods. So that's a Tasmanian brand. They look awesome in the pack. A little bit harder to put together, but they are delicious. So I'd really recommend them. These are about $17 each. They say they serve 2, but a lot of these meals say they serve 2. But if you actually look at the calories in this, it's about 400 calories per person if you're serving 2. And so my Radix was a 600 calorie, and I quite like that. Another cool meal I like to do on a shorter hike is take, say, like a frozen steak with me and then cook it on the coals of the fire. And then perhaps you could take a sweet potato that's already wrapped in foil and just throw that on the coals of the fire. And so there's a lot of really cool things you can make while you're out on the trail. It just depends how much weight you want to take and how many days you're going for. Another little trick is to repackage food items or do all the preparation in your own kitchen. And then out on the trail, all you have to do is add water, or, you know, put 1 or 2 ingredients together, and it makes it so much easier and quicker. One other thing I'll say is when I'm doing the longer trails, weight is so important with food. You know, if I'm just doing an overnighter, sometimes I like to take that really nice, delicious, fresh food. Whereas on a longer trail, you've got to be a bit more dialed in, because you know, you could be hiking for 5 days, 6 days before you can get resupply. The one sort of rule of thumb that I try and work by is having food that has about 350 calories for 100 grams of weight. Now, there's not that many foods that'll get up there, but there's a few of them. And if you have a lot of those items, you can actually really quite easily start to get your weight down in your food to about, you know, 700, 600 grams per day. And that really does help over a 6-day, you know, carry of food. So a few examples of foods that would fulfill that would be things like powdered milk, Deb mashed potatoes, almost there. Olive oil's a great one, peanut butter, dark chocolate, beef jerky, and protein powder. Obviously you need some more fruit and veggies in there, but that's a really great way of saving a lot of weight. The other thing to think about on those longer trails is how many calories do you actually need per day. And there's some really good calorie sort of calculator things on the internet where you basically just Google something along the lines of how many calories do I need per day? And you can put in a whole range of things from your, you know, your height, your weight, your gender, the activity level, and it will spit out a number. So, you know, 2,000 calories a day through to say 3,000 calories a day, depending on how big or small you are and how much activity you're doing. And then that can really help just to make sure, okay, hang on, my migarang's got this, my lunch has got that, my dinner's got this, I'm a bit light on, maybe I should chuck in a bit of olive oil to put over the top and just bulk that up a bit. So that's really important, those longer trails, because you just can't afford to be losing, you know, a kilo every week if you're doing a month-long trail. Brilliant, thank you so much for watching. Please chuck in the comments below any tips or tricks or your favorite hiking meals. I've learnt so much from doing this YouTube channel just from your comments alone, so I actually really get a big kick out of that. I think that's the one trick with hiking, is just always evolving, always learning and adapting to, you know, what suits your situation or the particular hike that you're doing. So yeah, please let me know. Thanks for watching and happy hiking.